When a kind-hearted waitress shares her lunch with a dust-covered construction worker, she never imagines he's actually a disillusioned billionaire in disguise. As their worlds collide, will her authentic compassion heal his jaded heart, or will his hidden identity destroy the most genuine connection he's ever known? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The summer sun beat down mercilessly on the bustling construction site at the corner of Riverside Drive and Oak Street. The relentless heat waves rippled off the pavement as workers labored to erect what would eventually become Horizon Tower, the newest addition to the city's ever-expanding skyline. Among them moved a man whose calloused hands and sweat-stained clothes betrayed nothing of his true identity. Dust clung to his simple work clothes and baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. At 42, Alexander Reed, known to these men simply as Alex, was worth over $3 billion. Yet here he was, posing as just another day laborer. "Water break," called the foreman, and the workers dispersed toward the shade. Alex wiped his brow, genuinely exhausted. 2 weeks into his experiment, and the physical toll was real. Nothing in his executive lifestyle had prepared him for the grueling reality of construction work. This hadn't been his idea. His therapist had suggested it after their third session, when Alex had complained, yet again, about feeling disconnected from reality. "You've lost touch with ordinary people," Dr. Patel had said. "You're surrounded by yes-men and opportunists. Maybe it's time to experience life from a different perspective." Alex had scoffed initially, but the thought had taken root. 3 messy divorces and countless failed relationships had left him cynical and isolated. His closest advisor, Jenkins, had been horrified by the plan. "Sir, this is completely unnecessary and potentially dangerous," Jenkins had protested. "If you want to understand the common man, we can arrange focus groups, surveys." "That's exactly the problem," Alex had interrupted. "Everything in my life is arranged. Nothing is authentic." And so Operation Reality Check had begun, a modest apartment rented under a false name, clothes purchased from a discount store. A fictional background story. Only Jenkins knew the truth, sworn to secrecy and instructed to contact Alex only in genuine emergencies. Now, standing in the sweltering heat, muscles aching from unfamiliar labor, Alex wondered if he'd made a terrible mistake. He'd assumed 2 months would be sufficient, but after just 2 weeks, he was questioning his resolve. The construction site bordered a small shopping district that included a family-owned diner called the Bluebird. Alex had noticed it on his first day, but hadn't ventured inside. Today, with his water bottle empty and his packed lunch forgotten at his temporary apartment, hunger drove him across the street. A bell chimed softly as he pushed open the door. The cool air conditioning was immediate relief from the oppressive heat outside. The diner was modestly decorated with blue and white checkered tablecloths and walls adorned with local photography. Despite the lunch hour, only a few tables were occupied. "Sit anywhere you like," called a warm voice from behind the counter. "I'll be with you in just a minute." Alex slid into a booth by the window, where he could watch the construction site. The woman who had spoken emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She appeared to be in her mid-30s, with chestnut hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. "Rough day out there?" she asked, approaching with a glass of ice water. "You guys must be melting in this heat." Alex nodded, suddenly conscious of his disheveled appearance. "It's brutal," he admitted, his voice rougher than its usual polished tone. "I'm Maya," she said, placing the water before him. "First time here?" "First time," Alex confirmed. "I just started at the site 2 weeks ago." Maya's smile was genuine, lacking the calculated charm he was accustomed to from people who recognized his wealth. "Well, welcome to the Bluebird. What can I get you?" Alex realized he hadn't even glanced at the menu. "Whatever's good," he said. "I trust your judgment." "Hungry man special it is," Maya decided. "Half-pound burger, fries, and our homemade coleslaw. Sound good?" Alex nodded, and she disappeared to place his order. He took the moment to observe the diner more closely. Unlike the upscale restaurants he typically frequented, there was nothing pretentious about the Bluebird. The furniture showed signs of wear, the menus were slightly dog-eared, but everything was immaculately clean. When Maya returned with his food, the aroma made his stomach growl audibly. She laughed, a genuine sound that somehow made the space between them feel warmer. "Enjoy," she said. "Holler if you need anything else." The burger was better than any he'd had at establishments with Michelin stars. Alex ate with unexpected relish, savoring flavors uncomplicated by pretension. As he ate, he watched Maya move around the diner, chatting easily with other customers, refilling coffee cups and clearing tables with efficient grace. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. There was something compelling about her, not in the way that had typically attracted him to women. She wasn't conventionally stunning or overtly sexy, but her movements held a quiet confidence, and her interactions seemed genuinely kind rather than performative. As Alex was finishing his meal, the bell chimed again. An elderly man shuffled in, his clothes threadbare but clean, his white hair neatly combed. Maya greeted him with particular warmth. "Mr. Parker, your usual today?" The old man nodded, settling at what was clearly his regular table. "If it's not too much trouble, dear." "Never trouble," Maya assured him, disappearing into the kitchen. When she emerged, she carried a simple sandwich and cup of soup to his table. Alex noticed there was no exchange of money, no credit card handed over, no bill presented. When Maya passed his table again, Alex couldn't help asking, "Regular customer?" Maya glanced over at the elderly man with a fond expression. "Mr. Parker's been coming here since my parents opened the Bluebird 30 years ago. He used to be a high school teacher, taught half the town, including me." Her voice lowered slightly. "His pension barely covers his medications these days, so he gets the teacher's special on the house." The simple act of kindness struck Alex with unexpected force. In his world, everything had a price, every gesture an angle. Watching Maya serve the old man with dignity, preserving his pride while ensuring he ate a proper meal, Alex felt something shift inside him. The following day, Alex returned to the Bluebird during his lunch break. Despite the variety of options on the menu, he ordered the same burger special. Maya recognized him immediately. "Construction site guy," she said with a grin. "Back for another hungry man special?" "It was memorable," Alex admitted. "I couldn't stop thinking about it." "High praise," Maya said, seemingly genuinely pleased. "I'll tell my brother. He's the cook, and he takes special pride in those burgers." As she turned to place his order, Alex noticed her uniform, clearly well-worn but meticulously maintained. The diner itself, while charming, showed signs of financial strain. A patch on one booth seat carefully color-matched, a small crack in one window taped rather than replaced. When Maya brought his food, he gathered his courage. "Been working here long?" "All my life, more or less," she answered, refilling his water. "My parents opened this place before I was born. Dad passed 5 years ago, and Mom's health isn't what it used to be, so my brother and I run it now." "Tough business," Alex commented, thinking of the restaurant chains his company had acquired and transformed over the years. "Getting tougher," Maya admitted with a sigh. "That new development going up, your construction site, is driving up property values in the neighborhood. Our rent just increased by 30%. She gestured around the half-empty diner. "As you can see, we're not exactly turning people away." The irony wasn't lost on Alex. Horizon Tower was one of his projects, a luxury apartment and retail complex that his company had pushed through despite community objections. The project manager had assured him that the neighborhood would benefit from revitalization, a euphemism Alex now recognized for what it truly was: gentrification. "Sorry to hear that," he said, feeling unexpectedly guilty. "It's a great place." Maya shrugged, resilience evident in her posture. "We'll figure it out." "We always do." She nodded toward his plate. "Better eat before it gets cold." Over the next week, Alex found himself at the Bluebird every day during his lunch break. Sometimes the diner was nearly empty. Other times it had a modest crowd, mostly locals and regulars whom Maya greeted by name. She always had a moment to chat with him, sharing small details about her life that he found himself looking forward to. He learned that she lived in a small apartment above the diner with her cat, Pancake. That she'd taken some community college courses in business, but had never finished her degree because the diner needed her. That her brother, Carlos, had 2 kids she adored. That she volunteered at the community center on weekends, teaching English to immigrants. In turn, he shared carefully edited versions of his own life. He described growing up in a middle-class family, true, working his way through college, partially true, and finding work in construction management, entirely false. He was careful to maintain his cover story, yet found himself sharing genuine parts of himself he rarely revealed. His love of classical music, his interest in architecture, his secret hobby of building intricate wooden models. On Friday of his third week at the construction site, Alex arrived at the Bluebird to find it unusually busy. Maya was rushing between tables, a slight flush on her cheeks as she balanced multiple orders. When she spotted him, she managed a quick smile. "Sorry, bit slammed today. Take your usual booth, I'll be with you when I can." Alex nodded and made his way to what had indeed become his booth. As he waited, he watched Maya work. Despite the pressure, she maintained her warm demeanor with every customer, remembering their preferences, asking about their families, making each person feel valued. Nearly 30 minutes passed before she reached his table, apologetic. "Sorry about that. Unexpected rush from that new office building down the street. What can I get you today?" Before Alex could answer, a crash came from the kitchen, followed by Carlos's voice cursing in Spanish. Maya's face fell as she hurried to investigate. Through the service window, Alex could see commotion, steam rising, Carlos clutching his hand, a pot overturned on the floor. When Maya returned, her composure was strained. "I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to close early today. Carlos burned his hand pretty badly, and I need to get him to urgent care." "Of course," Alex said, standing immediately. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Maya shook her head, already moving to the next table to explain the situation. Alex watched as she methodically informed each customer, apologizing profusely while clearly worried about her brother. When everyone else had left, he remained, reluctant to leave her dealing with the crisis alone. "Really, I can help," he offered again. "At least let me clean up while you take care of your brother." Maya looked at him with surprise, clearly torn between pride and practicality. "You don't have to do that. You'll miss work." Alex shrugged. "My foreman owes me a favor, let me make a quick call." To his relief, she relented. While Maya helped Carlos into her ancient Honda, Alex called Jenkins, not his foreman, to explain he'd be absent that afternoon. Then he rolled up his sleeves and tackled the kitchen mess. By the time Maya returned 3 hours later, Alex had cleaned the kitchen, washed the dishes, and even started prep work for the next day. Following the labeled containers in the refrigerator as best he could, Maya stood in the doorway, staring at the gleaming kitchen in disbelief. "You didn't have to do all this." "Wanted to," Alex said simply. "How's Carlos?" "Second-degree burn, but they got it cleaned and bandaged. He'll be okay, but he can't work for at least a week." She ran a hand through her hair, worry evident in the gesture. "I don't know how we'll manage. I can cook some things, but not everything, and we can't afford to hire temporary help right now." Alex saw the opportunity before he fully processed it. "I can help," he offered. "I worked in a restaurant kitchen in college." Another lie, but he'd been watching cooking shows for years and considered himself reasonably competent. Maya looked skeptical. "Don't you have a construction job?" "My project is wrapping up next week anyway," Alex improvised. "I was going to be looking for something new. I could fill in until Carlos is better." "We can't pay much," Maya warned. "Barely minimum wage. And that's stretching our budget." The absurdity of the situation, a billionaire negotiating for a minimum wage job, wasn't lost on Alex. "I've got some savings," he assured her. "I'm more concerned about helping you out than the pay." Maya studied him for a long moment, as if trying to understand his motivation. Finally, practicality won out. "Can you start tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.? "I'll be here," Alex promised. That evening, in his sparsely furnished temporary apartment, Alex called Jenkins. "I need clothes suitable for kitchen work," he explained. "And perhaps some basic culinary instruction videos." "Sir," Jenkins responded with barely concealed exasperation, "may I remind you that you have a board meeting scheduled in 2 weeks? This experiment was supposed to conclude next week." "Plans change, Jenkins," Alex replied firmly. "The board meeting can be postponed." "And the quarterly reports? The West Side development? The merger negotiations?" "Handle them," Alex said. That's why I pay you an obscene salary." There was a pause before Jenkins responded with resignation. "Yes, sir. Kitchen clothes and culinary instruction. Anything else?" Alex thought of Maya's worn uniform. The diners needed repairs. Carlos's injury. "Actually, yes. I need you to research the Bluebird Diner on Riverside Drive. Ownership, financial situation, everything. And find out who owns the building." "May I ask why, sir?" "You may not," Alex said, then relented. "Just covering all bases, Jenkins. That's all." The following morning, Alex arrived at the Bluebird at precisely 5:45 a.m. Maya was already there, looking tired but determined as she unlocked the door. "You actually came," she said, a note of surprise in her voice. "I said I would," Alex replied simply. The next hours were a crash course in short-order cooking. Maya showed him the basics: how to operate the industrial grill, the proper way to crack eggs with one hand, the diner's system for tracking orders. Alex was a quick study, though his first attempts at pancakes were disastrous. "They look like abstract art," Maya laughed, scraping his misshapen creations into the trash. "Try again. Less batter, more patience." By the end of the breakfast rush, Alex was sweating more than he had on the construction site. His back ached, his feet hurt, and he'd burned himself twice. But he'd also managed to successfully prepare several orders, and the quiet pride he felt was entirely new. When the last breakfast customer departed and they had a brief lull before lunch service, Maya brought him a cup of coffee and sat across from him at the counter. "Not bad for your first morning," she admitted, "but you're going to need to pick up the pace for lunch." "I'll get there," Alex promised, surprised by his own determination. He hadn't felt this engaged in a task. Genuinely, personally engaged, in years. Maya studied him over her coffee cup. "Why are you really doing this, Alex? Most people don't volunteer to work for peanuts in a struggling diner." The question caught him off guard. In his normal life, no one questioned his motives so directly. "Maybe I like the pancakes," he deflected. "The ones you demolished this morning?" Maya's eyebrow arched skeptically. "Try again." Alex sighed, deciding to offer a version of the truth. "Let's just say I've been reevaluating my life lately. Trying to figure out what matters." Maya seemed to accept this. "Midlife crisis?" "Something like that," Alex agreed with a self-deprecating smile. "Well, whatever the reason, I'm grateful," Maya said. "Now drink up. The lunch crowd will be here soon, and I need to teach you how to make a decent burger before they arrive." The day passed in a blur of orders, instructions, and occasional good-natured teasing from Maya when he made mistakes. By closing time, Alex was exhausted in a way his luxury gym workouts had never achieved, but also oddly satisfied. As they cleaned up, Maya unexpectedly asked, "Have you eaten today? Besides taste testing?" Alex realized he hadn't. In the chaos of learning the kitchen, he'd completely forgotten about his own needs. "That's what I thought," Maya said, noting his silence. "Sit. I'm making us dinner." Too tired to protest, Alex slid into a booth. Maya disappeared into the kitchen, emerging 20 minutes later with 2 plates. She'd prepared a simple but delicious meal of grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, and rice. "Not on the menu," she explained, sitting across from him. "Just something I throw together when I'm too tired to get creative." They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes before Maya spoke again. "So, construction and cooking. You're full of surprises, Alex." "Not really," he replied honestly. "I'm pretty boring most of the time." Maya laughed. "A boring man wouldn't volunteer to help a struggling diner when the cook gets injured. There's more to you than meets the eye, I think." The irony of her statement wasn't lost on Alex. If she only knew how much more there was, the private jets, the multiple homes, the empire he'd built. But sitting there in that modest diner, sharing a simple meal with a woman who saw him as just Alex, he realized none of that felt important anymore. "Tell me something about yourself that would surprise me," Maya challenged, refilling their water glasses. Alex considered carefully. "I play the cello." he admitted, offering a truth he rarely shared. "Not well, but I love it." Maya's eyes widened with genuine interest. "Really? That's unexpected. How did you get into that?" "My grandmother," Alex explained, warming to the subject. "She was a music teacher. She believed everyone should have music in their life." "She sounds wonderful," Maya said softly. "She was," Alex agreed, surprised by the emotion that welled up. "She was the most authentic person I've ever known. Until now," he added without thinking. Maya's cheeks colored slightly. "Flattery won't get you out of the dinner dishes," she quipped. But her smile was pleased. The next morning, Alex arrived early again, bringing coffee for them both from the shop around the corner. Maya accepted it gratefully, her hair still damp from her shower, wearing a faded bluebird t-shirt that somehow made her look younger. "You're a lifesaver," she said, inhaling the aroma before taking a sip. "I was up late doing the books." She grimaced. "Not my favorite part of running this place." "Not going well?" Alex asked carefully. Maya's expression clouded. "Let's just say I'll be having another conversation with the bank about extending our loan. Again." She shook her head as if to dispel the worry. "But that's not your problem. Ready for day 2 of cooking boot camp?" The next week transformed Alex in ways he hadn't anticipated. Each morning he arrived at the Bluebird before dawn, working alongside Maya to prepare for the day ahead. His cooking skills improved steadily under her patient guidance, and by the 4th day, he could handle the breakfast rush with minimal supervision. What surprised him most wasn't the physical demands of the work, though they were considerable, but how it affected him mentally. For the first time in years, he was fully present, his mind focused on immediate, tangible tasks rather than abstract financial projections or corporate strategies. There was something profoundly satisfying about creating something with his hands that brought others immediate pleasure. And then there was Maya herself. The more time they spent together, the more Alex found himself drawn to her. Not just her undeniable physical appeal, but something deeper, her unwavering integrity. Her resilience in the face of mounting financial pressures. The genuine warmth she extended to every person who walked through the diner's doors. On Thursday afternoon, during a lull between lunch and dinner, Alex was chopping vegetables for the next day's soup when Maya burst through the kitchen door, her face flushed with anger. "Everything okay?" he asked, setting down his knife. "No," she said flatly, pacing the small kitchen. "The building owner just stopped by. They're raising our rent again in 60 days. That's twice in 1 year." She slapped a notice down on the counter. 40% this time. They claim it's, quote, market adjustment due to the new development. Alex felt a twist of guilt in his stomach. The new development was his project. The luxury apartments and retail spaces that would inevitably change the character of the neighborhood. "Can you negotiate?" he asked carefully. Maya laughed bitterly. "With Pinnacle Properties, they don't negotiate with small businesses. They wait until we can't pay, then replace us with trendy boutiques or chain restaurants that can afford their ridiculous rates." She ran a hand through her hair, momentarily displacing her ponytail. "This diner has been here for 30 years. My parents built it from nothing, and now some faceless corporation is going to wipe it away without a second thought." The irony wasn't lost on Alex. Pinnacle Properties was a subsidiary of Reed Enterprises, his company. He had personally approved the acquisition of this building block 3 years ago, though he'd left the management details to his real estate division. "There must be something you can do," he suggested, guilt sharpening his words. Maya shook her head. "Unless you've got a few $100,000 hiding in those work boots to buy the building outright, we're at their mercy." She attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sorry, not your problem. I shouldn't dump this on you." "Hey," Alex said gently, reaching for her hand without thinking. "You've been carrying this burden alone for too long. It's okay to share it sometimes." Maya looked down at their joined hands, then up at his face. Something passed between them, a moment of connection that transcended their brief acquaintance. Then the bell over the front door chimed, announcing a customer, and the moment broke. "Back to work," Maya said, squeezing his hand once before letting go. "The world doesn't stop for our problems." That evening, after Maya had gone upstairs to her apartment above the diner, Alex made a call from the alley behind the building. "Jenkins," he said when his assistant answered. What do we know about the Bluebird's situation? Quite a bit, sir, Jenkins replied, his tone professionally neutral. The building is indeed owned by Pinnacle Properties, which is a subsidiary of Reed Enterprises, Alex finished. I'm aware. What about the Bluebird itself? The business has been operating at a loss for the past 18 months. Their loan applications have been rejected by 3 different banks. The owner, Ms. Maya Santiago, inherited the business from her parents, along with a considerable amount of debt. She's been making minimum payments on multiple loans while trying to keep the business afloat. Alex closed his eyes, absorbing this information. And the rent increase? Standard procedure for the neighborhood redevelopment plan. All commercial tenants are receiving similar notices. The strategy is to replace existing businesses with higher-end establishments, more aligned with the Horizon Tower clientele. A strategy I approved, Alex said quietly. Yes, sir, 18 months ago. Cancel it, Alex said firmly. There was a pause on the line. I beg your pardon, sir? The rent increase for the Bluebird. Cancel it. Maintain their current rate. Sir, with all due respect, that would be highly irregular. The other tenants. I don't care about the other tenants right now, Jenkins. This is a specific case. Another pause. May I ask why this particular establishment warrants special treatment? Alex found himself unable to articulate a business justification. Because it matters, he said finally. To the community. To the owner. To you, sir? Jenkins asked perceptively. Just handle it, Jenkins, Alex replied, avoiding the question. And I want options on my desk for acquiring the building separately from the redevelopment project. We may need to spin it off into a different holding company. Very well, sir. Will there be anything else? Alex thought of Maya's tired eyes, the outdated equipment in the kitchen, the worn booths in the dining room. Yes, I want to know about programs for small business revitalization, grants, low-interest loans, that sort of thing. For the Bluebird, sir? No, Alex said after a moment's consideration. For the neighborhood. All the existing businesses. Find out what's available and how Reed Enterprises might facilitate access to those resources. Jenkins was silent for a beat too long. Sir, are you feeling quite well? Despite everything, Alex laughed. I'm fine, Jenkins. Better than I've been in years, actually. Just get me that information. The next morning, Maya arrived at the diner to find Alex already there, brewing coffee and prepping the grill. You're early, she remarked, hanging her jacket on the hook by the door. Couldn't sleep, Alex admitted. Thought I might as well be productive. Maya studied him with concern. Everything okay? No, Alex thought. Nothing was okay. He was lying to her every day, pretending to be someone he wasn't. Worse, he was directly responsible for the threat to her livelihood, to this place she loved so much. But he couldn't tell her any of that. Just thinking about your situation, he said instead. There must be options we haven't considered. Maya's expression softened. We? This isn't your fight, Alex. Maybe I want it to be, he replied, surprising himself with his honesty. Something flickered in Maya's eyes. Surprise, confusion, and something warmer. But before she could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and frowned. It's the hospital. I need to take this. She stepped into the small office, closing the door behind her. When she emerged a few minutes later, her face was pale. Carlos had a complication. The burn got infected. They are keeping him for observation and intravenous antibiotics. Is he going to be okay? Alex asked, genuinely concerned. They think so, but he'll be out longer than expected. At least another 2 weeks. She leaned against the counter, looking suddenly exhausted. I don't know how much more I can handle, Alex. The rent increase, now this. Without thinking, Alex pulled her into a hug. She stiffened momentarily, then relaxed against him, her head resting on his shoulder. They stood like that for several moments, her breath warm against his neck. We'll figure it out, he promised, his voice low. One day at a time. Maya pulled back slightly, looking up at him with a mix of gratitude and something else, something that made his heart beat faster. Why do you care so much? You barely know me. Alex struggled to find words that wouldn't reveal too much but wouldn't be a complete lie. Sometimes you just know when something is worth fighting for, he said finally. Their faces were inches apart, the air between them charged with unspoken possibility. For a Heartbeat, Alex thought she might close that distance. Then the timer on the oven beeped loudly, breaking the spell. Maya stepped back, her cheeks flushed. "We should get ready for opening," she said, her voice slightly unsteady. The day passed in a blur of customers and cooking, but the moment in the kitchen lingered between them, creating a new awareness. Their hands brushed as they passed plates, their eyes met across the diner with shared smiles, and Alex found himself looking for excuses to be near her. That evening, as they closed up together, Maya seemed unusually quiet. "Penny for your thoughts," Alex said as he wiped down the counter. Maya hesitated, then set down the sugar containers she was refilling. "I got a letter today. From the bank. They've denied our loan extension." Alex's stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means we have 30 days to make a payment we can't afford, or they'll call in the full loan." She attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "So, no pressure." "There must be other options," Alex insisted. "Other banks, investors." "We've tried other banks," Maya interrupted gently. "No one wants to take a chance on a struggling diner in a neighborhood that's about to price us out anyway." She shook her head. "Maybe it's time to face reality." The Bluebird might have reached the end of its flight. "No," Alex said, more forcefully than he'd intended. "You can't give up." Maya looked at him curiously. "Why does this matter so much to you?" "Because I'm responsible," Alex thought. "Because my company, my decisions, are part of what's threatening you. Because in the short time I've known you, you've shown me what really matters, in a way no one else ever has." "Because you matter," he said simply. Maya studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she glanced at her watch and sighed. "It's late. We should finish closing up." As they worked in companionable silence, Alex's mind raced through possibilities. He could easily solve Maya's financial problems with a fraction of his wealth. He could buy the building, cancel the loans, renovate the entire diner, all without making a dent in his fortune. But doing so would mean revealing his deception, potentially destroying whatever was growing between them. Would she ever forgive him for lying? Would she believe his feelings were genuine and not just wealthy man guilt? Did he even deserve her forgiveness? After they'd finished cleaning, Maya locked the front door and turned to him. "It's Friday night. Do you have plans?" Alex shook his head. "Nothing special. Feel like a drink?" "There's a little place around the corner. Nothing fancy, but they make a decent margarita." The invitation surprised him. "I'd like that." The bar was indeed nothing fancy. A neighborhood spot with mismatched furniture, local craft beers on tap, and a small dance floor where a few couples swayed to music from the jukebox. They found a quiet table in the corner, and Maya ordered margaritas for both of them. "To surviving another week," she said, raising her glass. "To the Bluebird," Alex countered, clinking his glass against hers. As they sipped their drinks, the conversation flowed easily, moving beyond the diner to more personal topics. Maya told him about growing up in the apartment above the restaurant, helping her parents from the time she was tall enough to reach the counter, how she'd dreamed of traveling, maybe going to culinary school, but life had taken a different turn. "Do you regret it?" Alex asked. "Staying?" Maya considered the question seriously. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But then I remember how much this place meant to my parents, how much it means to people like Mr. Parker, how it's been the one constant in my life." She shrugged. "Maybe that's not very ambitious. Or maybe it's the purest ambition," Alex suggested. "To preserve something good, something that matters." Maya smiled, pleased by his understanding. "What about you? Any regrets?" Too many to count, Alex thought. But looking at Maya across the table, her face softly lit by the bar's dim lights, he couldn't bring himself to regret the path that had led him here. "I've made mistakes," he said carefully, "prioritized the wrong things. But I'm trying to do better." "Aren't we all?" Maya replied, raising her glass again. The conversation continued, punctuated by laughter and moments of surprising vulnerability. As they finished their second round of drinks, the music changed to something slower, more intimate. "Dance with me?" Maya asked, standing and offering her hand. Alex hesitated only briefly before taking it, allowing her to lead him to the small dance floor. The song was an old one, something about seeing someone for who they truly are, and the irony wasn't lost on him as Maya stepped into his arms. They moved together naturally, her head eventually coming to rest against his chest. Alex closed his eyes, savoring the feeling of her in his arms, the scent of her hair, the warmth of her body against his. For the first time in longer than he could remember, he felt completely present, completely alive. When the song ended, Maya looked up at him, her expression open and vulnerable in a way he hadn't seen before. Without overthinking, Alex lowered his head and kissed her gently. The kiss was tentative at first, a question rather than a demand. When Maya responded, rising on her toes to deepen the contact, relief and desire surged through him in equal measure. Her hands slid up his chest to link behind his neck, and his arms tightened around her waist, drawing her closer. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Maya's eyes were wide with surprise, not at his actions, but at her own response. "I don't usually do this," she said softly. "Kiss guys I've only known for a week." "I don't usually kiss coworkers," Alex replied with a small smile. "But I'm glad I made an exception." They shared one more dance before deciding to call it a night. Alex walked Maya back to the diner and the staircase that led to her apartment above. "Thank you for tonight," she said, keys in hand. "I needed that more than I realized." "Me too," Alex admitted. Maya hesitated, then rose on her toes to kiss him again, briefly but warmly. "Good night, Alex." "Good night, Maya." As he walked back to his temporary apartment, Alex's emotions were in turmoil. Joy at the connection they'd shared warred with guilt over his continued deception. He needed to tell her the truth, but not yet. Not until he had a plan to make things right. The weekend passed in a blur of work and stolen moments. The Bluebird was busier than usual, perhaps due to word spreading about their special weekend menu, Alex's suggestion, featuring dishes that combined Maya's family recipes with some of his own ideas. Despite the financial uncertainty looming over everything, there was a lightness between them, a shared energy that made even the most mundane tasks feel significant. On Sunday evening, after closing, they sat at the counter sharing a late dinner and a bottle of wine. "We made enough this weekend to cover next week's expenses," Maya said, reviewing the receipts. "Still nothing for the bank payment, but at least we're not falling further behind." "The weekend specials helped," Alex pointed out. "We should do that every week. Create some buzz. Give people a reason to come specifically to the Bluebird." Maya smiled at his use of "we," but her expression quickly sobered. "Even if we doubled our weekend business, it wouldn't be enough, Alex. Not with the rent increase coming and the loan payment due." Alex hesitated, then decided to test the waters. "What if you had an investor? Someone who believed in the Bluebird and wanted to help preserve it?" Maya's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "What kind of investor?" "A silent partner," Alex suggested. "Someone who could provide capital without interfering with how you run things." "And what would this mysterious investor want in return?" "Because in my experience, money always comes with strings." Alex chose his words carefully. Maybe they just want to be part of something real. Something that matters. Maya studied him for a long moment. "Do you know someone like that?" The moment of truth had arrived sooner than Alex had anticipated. He opened his mouth to begin his confession, but before he could speak, Maya's phone rang. She glanced at the screen with a frown. "It's Carlos." "I should take this." She stepped away, leaving Alex with his revelation hanging unspoken in the air. When she returned a few minutes later, her expression had completely changed, excitement replacing worry. "Carlos has amazing news," she said, eyes bright. "An old friend of my father's was in the diner yesterday. He tried the special menu and was apparently impressed. He wants to meet with us tomorrow. He might be interested in investing." Alex felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Did Carlos mention a name? James Peterson. He runs some kind of investment firm. Maya was practically bouncing with excitement. Carlos says he has a reputation for saving small local businesses. This could be exactly what we need. James Peterson. Alex knew him well, a rival developer with a very different reputation in Alex's circles than the one Maya described. Peterson was known for identifying struggling businesses in developing neighborhoods, investing just enough to gain controlling interest, then selling them out from under the original owners once property values increased. Maya, Alex began carefully. I think you should be cautious about this, Peterson. Investment deals can be complicated. Of course they're complicated, Maya interrupted, her excitement dimming slightly. But we're out of options, Alex. The bank won't extend our loan. The rent is about to skyrocket. We need a miracle, and this might be it. Alex wanted to tell her then, to reveal who he was, to offer an alternative to Peterson's undoubtedly predatory deal. But the joy in her eyes stopped him. How could he confess now, and not seem like he was trying to manipulate the situation? Would she even believe his motives were genuine? Just promise me you won't sign anything without having a lawyer review it, he said instead. Maya's expression softened. She moved closer, placing a hand on his cheek. Are you worried about me? Yes, he admitted honestly. That's sweet. She kissed him softly. But I've been running this business for 5 years. I know how to look out for myself. Alex covered her hand with his own. I know you do. I just don't want to see you get hurt. I'll be careful, she promised. Now, we should finish closing up. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. That night, as Alex lay awake in his sparse apartment, he knew he'd reached a crossroads. Peterson's arrival had forced his hand. He needed to reveal himself before the meeting, to give Maya the full truth, so she could make an informed decision. But would the truth destroy everything they'd built? Monday morning arrived with a sense of foreboding. Alex had barely slept, his mind racing through scenarios, none of them good. He arrived at the Bluebird an hour earlier than usual, determined to speak with Maya before Peterson showed up. The diner was dark when he arrived, no lights visible in the apartment above. Alex checked his watch, 5 a.m., perhaps too early even for Maya. He was about to call her when headlights swept across the front window. A sleek black car pulled up, and Maya emerged from the passenger side. Alex recognized the driver immediately. James Peterson. His stomach dropped. They'd already met. Maya spotted him through the window and waved, her smile bright even in the pre-dawn darkness. She said something to Peterson, who nodded and drove away. Alex braced himself as Maya approached the door. You're early, she said as she unlocked it, sounding genuinely pleased to see him. I wanted to talk to you before the meeting, Alex explained, following her inside. But it looks like you've already met Peterson. Isn't it amazing? Maya flipped on the lights, practically glowing with excitement. He called last night after we closed, said he couldn't wait until this afternoon. He picked me up this morning and we had coffee at his hotel while discussing possibilities. She hung up her jacket, oblivious to Alex's mounting distress. He's exactly what the Bluebird needs, Alex. He understands the vision, respects the history, and has the resources to help us not just survive, but thrive. What exactly is he offering? Alex asked carefully. A significant investment in exchange for 40% ownership, Maya explained, moving behind the counter to start the coffee. Enough to pay off our debts, renovate the space, and update our equipment. And he's offering to negotiate with the building owner directly about the rent increase. Peterson would indeed negotiate with Pinnacle Properties, and as a major developer himself, he'd likely secure a favorable deal, but not for Maya's benefit. He was positioning himself to take over completely once Maya was dependent on his support. Maya, Alex began, his voice serious. I need to tell you something important about Peterson. Maya turned to face him, her expression suddenly guarded. What about him? He's not the white knight he's presenting himself as, Alex said. He has a reputation for predatory investments. He finds struggling businesses in up-and-coming neighborhoods, gains partial ownership, then forces the original owners out once property values rise. Maya's smile faded. How would you know that? The critical moment had arrived. Alex took a deep breath. Because I work in the same industry. My name isn't just Alex, it's Alexander Reed. I own Reed Enterprises. Maya stared at him blankly for a moment, then understanding dawned in her eyes. followed swiftly by confusion and betrayal. Reed Enterprises. The company developing Horizon Tower? The project that's driving up our rent? Yes, Alex admitted, his voice barely audible. Maya stepped back as if he'd physically struck her. You've been lying to me, this whole time. Not about everything, Alex said quickly. Not about how I feel about you or the bluebird or… Stop. Maya held up her hand, her expression hardening. Just stop. You pretended to be a construction worker, then wormed your way into my diner, my life. Her voice broke slightly. Was this some kind of game to you? Slumming with the common folk? Or were you gathering intelligence about the neighborhood for your next development project? No, Maya, it wasn't like that. Alex moved toward her, but she backed away. It started as something else, an experiment, a way to experience life differently. But it became real. What I feel for you is real. Real? Maya laughed bitterly. There's nothing real about any of this. You lied about who you are, what you do. You're the reason we're facing a rent increase. Your company is why this neighborhood is changing, why businesses like ours are being pushed out. Her eyes widened with a new realization. The building. Pinnacle Properties. That's you too, isn't it? Alex couldn't deny it. A subsidiary, yes, but I've already instructed them to cancel your rent increase. I was trying to find a way to make things right. Make things right? Maya's voice rose. You can't just wave your billionaire magic wand and fix this, Alex, or whatever your name really is. This isn't about money. It's about trust. It's about honesty. It's about respecting people enough to show them who you really are. I wanted to, Alex insisted. I was going to tell you everything today, before Peterson's meeting. That's why I came early. How convenient, Maya said coldly. You were fine lying to me until another rich man showed interest in my business. Then suddenly honesty became important. The accusation stung because there was truth in it. Peterson is not who he claims to be, Alex said, trying to redirect the conversation to the immediate threat. And you are? Maya shook her head, tears now visible in her eyes. At least he was honest about his intentions from the start. He told me he was an investor looking for opportunity. He didn't pretend to be someone he's not. He didn't make me believe. She stopped, unable to finish. Believe what? Alex asked softly. Maya looked at him, her expression a mixture of anger and hurt. That someone could actually care about me for who I am, not what I could offer them. The words struck Alex like a physical blow. I do care about you, Maya, more than I've cared about anyone in a very long time. I want you to leave, Maya said, her voice suddenly calm. Now, and don't come back. Maya, please. Get out, she shouted, tears now flowing freely. Get out of my diner. Get out of my life. Alex wanted to argue, to explain, to make her understand that his feelings had become genuine even if his identity had been false. But the pain in her eyes stopped him. He had done this, created this situation through his deception. He had no right to demand she listen to his explanations. I'm sorry, he said simply, then turned and left. Outside, the sky was just beginning to lighten with dawn. Alex stood on the sidewalk, staring at the diner's faded sign, feeling as though something essential had been torn from him. His phone buzzed in his pocket, Jenkins no doubt, with some crisis requiring the CEO's attention. The real world intruding on the simpler life he briefly inhabited. He ignored it and began walking, no destination in mind. After 3 blocks he stopped and pulled out his phone, not to return Jenkins' call but to make a different one. Meet me at the office, he instructed his lawyer. We have work to do. Inside the Bluebird, Maya sank onto a stool, her body trembling with anger and hurt. Alexander Reed, not a struggling construction worker or a part-time cook, but one of the wealthiest men in the city, the very person whose company was threatening her livelihood. And she had kissed him, had begun to fall for him. The bell over the door jingled, making her jump. For a moment she thought Alex had returned, but it was Elena, the college student who helped during busy periods. Hey, boss, Elena said cheerfully, then stopped, taking in Maya's tear-stained face. What's wrong? What happened? Maya straightened, wiping her cheeks. Nothing. Just a misunderstanding. She stood, forcing herself back into the routine that had anchored her through every previous crisis. Let's get ready to open. The morning passed in a haze. Maya went through the motions mechanically, cooking and serving, smiling at customers by rote. Her mind kept returning to Alexander, and the look in his eyes when she'd ordered him to leave. He had seemed genuinely hurt, genuinely regretful. But how could she trust anything about him now? At precisely noon, James Peterson arrived for their scheduled meeting. In his expensive suit, and with his confident smile, he now reminded Maya uncomfortably of Alex. Was Alex right about Peterson's intentions? Was she trading one deception for another? Maya, Peterson greeted her warmly, ready to discuss the future of the Bluebird. Maya gestured to a corner booth. Let's talk. Peterson laid out his proposal in detail. The investment amount, the ownership structure, the planned improvements. It all sounded reasonable, even generous, but Maya found herself scrutinizing every word, searching for hidden agendas. You seem hesitant, Peterson observed as he finished his presentation. Having second thoughts? Maya chose her words carefully. I've been told that you have a history of investing in small businesses only to push out the original owners once property values increase. Peterson's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Business can be competitive. I won't deny that I've had to make difficult decisions, but my goal has always been mutual success. He leaned forward. Who's been filling your head with these concerns? Not that cook of yours who was here last week? The tall fellow with the construction worker vibe? Maya stiffened. You know him? Alexander Reed? Of course I know him. Everyone in my industry knows Reed. Peterson's tone was dismissive. An entitled trust fund kid who turned a modest real estate company into a development juggernaut by bulldozing anything in his way, including small businesses exactly like yours. The confirmation of Alex's identity sent a fresh wave of hurt through Maya, but she kept her expression neutral. And you're different? I'm transparent, Peterson replied smoothly. I'm telling you exactly what I want and what I'm offering. Reed operates in shadows. That little disguise he was wearing. Peterson gestured vaguely at the kitchen where Alex had worked. That's typical Reed. He probably thought it was amusing to play at being ordinary while his company was positioning to take over this entire block. Maya wanted to defend Alex, to insist that there had been genuine connection between them, but doubt clouded her certainty. Had it all been a game to him? I need time to think, she said finally. This is a big decision. Of course, Peterson agreed, though a flicker of impatience crossed his features. But I should mention that my offer isn't open-ended. I have other opportunities requiring my attention. I'll need your answer by tomorrow afternoon. After Peterson left, Maya closed herself in the small office, overwhelmed. In less than 24 hours, her world had been upended. The man she'd begun to care for had been revealed as a fraud. The savior of her business might be just another predator. And the Bluebird, her parents' legacy, her life's work, hung in the balance. For the first time since her father's death, Maya allowed herself to simply break down. She cried until she had no tears left, then sat in exhausted silence, staring at nothing. A knock on the office door startled her. Maya? Elena called softly. There's someone here to see you. Maya wiped her face and took a deep breath. Tell them I'm not available. She says it's important. Something about Alexander Reed. Maya's heart lurched. Had Alex sent someone to plead his case? Or was this yet another complication in an already impossible situation? Fine, she sighed. Send them in. The woman who entered was not what Maya expected. Middle-aged, with silver-streaked dark hair and intelligent eyes, she carried herself with quiet confidence. She wore a simple but clearly expensive pantsuit and minimal jewelry. Mid Santiago, she said, offering her hand. I'm Gabriela Vega, legal counsel for the Reed Foundation. Maya didn't take the offered hand. If Alexander Reed sent you to apologize on his behalf, you can save your breath. Gabriela smiled slightly. Mr. Reed didn't send me. In fact, he doesn't know I'm here, and he'd probably be quite annoyed if he did know. She placed a business card on the desk. I'm here because I've known Alexander since he was a child. His mother was my best friend. This unexpected personal connection caught Maya off guard. What do you want? To give you context, Gabriella replied. And information you might find useful in making your decision about Mr. Peterson's offer. Despite her reservations, Maya was intrigued. I'm listening. Gabriella sat in the chair opposite Maya's desk. Alexander lost his mother when he was 21. Cancer. It devastated him. She was the moral compass of the family, the one who insisted that business success was meaningless without purpose. After she died, he threw himself into expanding the company his grandfather had founded, as if proving himself in business could somehow fill the void she left. Why are you telling me this? Maya asked, uncomfortable with this glimpse into Alex's personal life. Because the man who worked in your kitchen these past 2 weeks is more like the boy I knew, the one his mother raised, than the businessman he became. Gabriella's expression was earnest. I've watched him build an empire while losing himself. Until now. Maya shifted uneasily. Whatever game he was playing here. It wasn't a game, Gabriella interrupted gently. It started as an experiment, yes. His therapist suggested it as a way to reconnect with reality after his 3rd divorce. But something happened here. With you. Something changed him. He lied to me, Maya said, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. Yes, he did, Gabriella acknowledged, and that was wrong. But consider this. He could have revealed his identity at any time to impress you, to solve your problems with his wealth. He didn't. And when he finally did tell you the truth, it was to protect you from someone he believed would harm you. Maya absorbed this perspective, her anger beginning to give way to confusion. How do you know all this? Because this morning Alexander asked me to create a legal framework for something he's never done before. Gabriella reached into her briefcase and pulled out a document. This is a binding letter of intent. It states that Reed Enterprises will sell the building housing the Bluebird to a new community land trust at a below-market rate. The trust will ensure that rent remains affordable for all current tenants in perpetuity. Maya stared at the document in disbelief. He's selling the building? He's restructuring much more than that, Gabriella continued. He's establishing a neighborhood preservation fund, creating small business grants, modifying the Horizon Tower project to include affordable housing units. She smiled slightly. His board of directors is in an uproar. Why would he do all this? Maya asked, struggling to reconcile this information with her perception of Alex as a heartless developer. You'd have to ask him that, Gabriella replied. But I suspect it has something to do with remembering what his mother tried to teach him. That true value isn't measured in dollars, but in human connection. She stood, placing another document beside the first. This one might interest you personally. It's a loan offer for the Bluebird. Standard market rate, no ownership stake, no controlling interest. Just capital to help you stabilize and grow, with repayment terms you can actually manage. Maya looked up sharply. I don't want his charity. It's not charity, Gabriella assured her. It's business, just business conducted with humanity. The loan will be administered through the Reed Foundation, not Reed Enterprises. Alexander will have no direct involvement unless you want him to. And what does he expect in return? Maya asked, still suspicious. Nothing, Gabriella said simply. That's the point. These actions aren't contingent on your forgiveness or on any personal relationship with him. They're simply the right thing to do. She moved toward the door. Peterson's offer expires tomorrow. Ours doesn't. Take the time you need to decide what's best for you and for the Bluebird. After Gabriella left, Maya sat staring at the documents, her emotions in turmoil. If what Gabriella said was true, Alex was doing something extraordinary, not just for her, but for the entire neighborhood. And he was doing it without demanding anything in return, without even telling her himself. Was it possible that the man she'd come to know in her kitchen, the Alex who worked hard without complaint, who treated every customer with respect, who held her while she worried about her brother, was the real person, not the ruthless developer Peterson had described? Maya closed her eyes, remembering the look in Alex's eyes that morning, not the calculated regret of a man caught in a lie, but the genuine pain of someone who had finally found something real and watched it slip away. She needed to see him, to hear the truth from him directly. But first, she had a more pressing appointment. James Peterson returned that afternoon as promised, his confidence bordering on smugness as he placed a contract on the table between them. "I've made the terms even more favorable," he announced. 35% ownership instead of 40. You'll still have controlling interest." He smiled, all perfect teeth and practiced charm. "I just need your signature, and we can begin the transformation of the Bluebird." Maya studied him, seeing now what she had missed before, the predatory calculation behind his friendly demeanor, the assumption of her acquiescence. She wondered how many other small business owners had sat across from him, desperate and hopeful, not recognizing the trap until it was too late. "I have a few questions first," she said calmly. "What happens if we disagree about the direction of the business?" Peterson waved dismissively. "The contract gives you final say on operational decisions. And after a year? When the investment period ends?" A flicker of impatience crossed Peterson's face. "We reassess based on performance. And if performance doesn't meet your expectations? Then we discuss options," Peterson said, his tone cooling. "Like any business partnership." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "One more question. What is your relationship with Pinnacle Properties?" Peterson stilled almost imperceptibly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, did you approach them about buying this building before you approached me about investing in the Bluebird?" The momentary flash of surprise in Peterson's eyes confirmed what Maya had already suspected. "Business relationships are complex," he hedged. "I have discussions with many property owners." "I'm sure you do," Maya said, sliding the contract back toward him unopened. "I won't be signing this." Peterson's friendly facade vanished. "You're making a serious mistake. Without my investment, this place will be gone within months. Reed Enterprises will see to that." "Actually," Maya replied, surprising herself with her calm, "I have it on good authority that Reed Enterprises has other plans for this neighborhood. Plans that include preserving existing businesses, not replacing them." Peterson scoffed. "Alexander Reed doesn't preserve anything. He destroys and rebuilds in his own image." "People can change," Maya said simply. "Even billionaires." After Peterson stormed out, Maya sat quietly, considering her next move. The diner was empty, the afternoon lull giving her space to think. She pulled out her phone and found the business card Alex had given her weeks ago, when she'd thought he was just a construction worker with a side talent for cooking. Her finger hovered over the number. Was she ready to hear what he had to say? Could she trust anything about him now? Before she could decide, the bell over the door jingled. Maya looked up, expecting another customer, but instead found herself face to face with Alex himself. He looked different. Back in an expensive suit, his hair neatly styled, no longer the rumpled cook or dusty construction worker. But his eyes were the same, now filled with an uncertainty she'd never seen in them before. "Maya," he said softly, "I know you asked me not to come back. I'll leave if you want me to, but I had to see you one more time. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us."